No, we're live. It's working.
Oh, I'm good. Okay.
We should be good. I think so, anyways.
Well, it says end stream, so I guess I'm live now.
So, how were your holidays?
It was holidays were good. It's a little quieter. Uh just mainly the grandchildren, but it's fun for me. And kids make the holidays better as you're finding out. It's a lot
did
more fun.
Did you hear anything about the camp that they held in North Carolina with the new coach?
I heard a little bit. Nothing that was impressive to me. I don't know much about North Carolina. Uh, the the what I always say is that when you go to a camp, when you're developing, there's one question you ask: am I leaving better than I came? And it's really important that we're getting better all the time. And I don't know if that was the case. Certainly not for the girls that I sent.
Oh, so you did send girls there.
Well, let's put it this way: they went. I didn't send them; they went. It wasn't my thought that it was the best case for them. Uh, I mean, unless I'm there, actually coaching every and watching every round, they don't get the value out of it. Uh, you know, so no, I don't believe that there was great value for me and my kids.
I haven't had a chance to talk to our kids yet because they don't come back from the holidays until Monday.
Yeah. But I mean,
They're still all the way.
when the girls went to Canada and Kalita went with them, every round was evaluated. Every day there was a meeting before, after, what we're doing to get better, and there was an effort and motivation. And certainly, me being home, getting a call from Kalita every day, it was a quality experience all around, and that's what I need for the girls, for my students. Uh, Again, we're getting better, we're working, we're evaluating. So no, I didn't see that, nor do I know that any of the coaches there have the ability to do that.
I mean, there's always the ability to open up a line of communication if they want to put forth the time.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, you need to know what to look for, and you need to know the athletes. Take the time to know the athletes. So I mean, there's got to be some effort by the coaches if they're going to make a difference to the athlete.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with the program and how often they're going to use it now that they've had this kickoff one, when they plan on scheduling the next get together, because it doesn't do much good to have a big fancy tool if you're not going to use it ever.
But I really don't even know what the plan is for the tool, or what the plan is. Uh,
I think they hired a coach for, I think it's like $70,000 a year, and I think because they hired a coach to live there full time, they're granted, like, I want to say it's like 300 or like $350,000 to fund athletes. I think those athletes have to be affiliated with that training center in North Carolina in some fashion thereof, right? Whether that means they live there, whether that means they visit every so often, I'm not sure. I know they gave a big speech because some of our athletes mentioned it about, hey, if you move here and train with this guy, like, you'll have access to this money and funding, and you won't have to worry about paying for things anymore to go on trips. But not sure if anybody bought into that.
well, yeah. So I have no idea. I know that my athletes aren't going to go. I don't believe your athletes are going to go. I don't know if Jack Unesca is going to go.
Oh, I doubt he's going.
Yep. The athletes that work with Jason Morris aren't going to go. So I don't know who's going to go. I don't know what kids from Kitsusai are going to go.
It'd be interesting to have this conversation after the senior nationals this year
Yep.
to see who's actually picked up and moved, and if this guy even shows up to our nationals.
Well, I would think it would be required, and I would imagine that part of his job is recruiting, but what do I know?
Yeah, you would think, right?
Uh, yeah, I don't listen. I'm glad we're doing something, but it doesn't mean it's going to be good. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I don't even know
Yeah.
about the facility. I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't know much about it. They didn't train at the facility. They trained at a gym, high school gym, I believe. I believe they did. It wasn't the actual facility they're using there.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know.
Oh, I'll have to call Colton and ask. That's interesting. That was the other interesting part. They brought in Colton and Marty, but paid another guy. I mean, they paid all three of them, but like they
Right.
hired a guy to be this person, but
Yeah.
then still brought in two other people to do things.
And again, Colton, no one spends any time with the athletes. I mean, bringing a stranger there just because they're judo players doesn't mean they could help the athletes. I mean, there has to be some sort of relationship where you know something about the athlete if you're going to make a difference.
Man, it takes a while to build that trust
Oh
and
God,
back and forth.
it's interesting. And I'll say this quickly that in 1990, I was when Jim Senior and my brother were and Willie Kale were in charge. I was the head of junior development and I was the head junior coach. And I coached for 6 years and went with every camp, every tournament I went to. And when I ended up being the coach of the Olympic team, 90% of the team were people that I coached the previous 6 years. And that's kind of the way it should go, where you're developing coaches and athletes together as they go up. And certainly I knew everyone really well, throughout those 4 years.
I mean, that's how a lot of the bigger programs do it. They follow the athletes all the way through and cycle their coaches as the athletes cycle through.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and then some programs transplant successful coaches into successful programs to try to make them a little bit bigger, or jumpstart them, or we saw that with Richie Troutman in Azerbaijan,
Yeah, but
right?
that's like having a great football coach going to another great program. You know,
Correct.
you've got athletes with great skills, and you're bringing a great coach. May not be the same as the other one. Have some different ways of doing things, and maybe a lot better, and he can grow them. I
Yep.
mean, Gamba, and
In Russia.
yeah, I mean, so it's certainly we got the people, but you need the infrastructure and the athletes. And that's where we struggle. We need to develop our athletes.
It's a tough nut to crack.
Well, the question is, has it gone too far away? I mean, you're developing athletes. I'm developing athletes. We're doing it on our own, right? We work
Well,
together. We do it on our own.
and we're also doing it. I wouldn't even say part time.
No, we're not. Well, we're doing the
You know,
best we can, right? We're doing the best we can, but it's a challenge. And of course, there's no infrastructure in the United States judo. So, I mean, your guys work with each other all the time. It's just a challenge. It's a challenge to get better. I mean, when I was younger, there were 10 to 12 clubs you could go to and get a great workout.
yep. I used to go to 5 or 6 myself.
Right. Yeah, anytime. Just show up, right? Yeah,
Yep.
it's changed a lot. It's
And
unfortunate.
sometimes different clubs would all come together into one place on one night a week just
Right.
and chat.
You work together yeah, did that too.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it just isn't that way anymore, unfortunately.
Where you found out such and such club had such and such a player show up for a couple of days. So everybody used to unload from their clubs to go train with those people. If they had a visiting team show up from like California or wherever.
Yeah. Was that when you was at Yananchikai? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yananchikai system worked really well for that, really well when I was younger too, and worked together all the time. All the clubs, teachers, senseis worked together. Everyone was welcome, just a different mentality.
It's different now. Now the Idanshikai system is kind of broken.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It doesn't quite function like it used to in today's society.
No, no, and I don't care if they change the name of it and we work that way. It would be great, but it isn't.
Yeah, Alvin brought up a good point in the chat that Canada has the provincial team training sessions about 2 times a month. But also, Alvin, in Canada, those provincial coaches are required to show up to different clubs throughout the week to check in on athletes and watch the athletes. And, they're showing up to all the competitions, even locally, to watch, evaluate, and provide feedback. So, the Canadian system is one that the U.S. would really benefit from. We just don't have the luxury of government funding to hire these people.
Without a doubt. And again, look at the result. Canada is doing really well.
Yeah.
Really.
Still behind the U.S. though, if we look at the numbers. Still behind the U.S.
Numbers in
just overall performance years back, like
years back.
If you went back like 20 years and looked at all the results.
No question. But going back 4 years.
That time is shifting though.
Oh my God. I mean, you have 2 world champions in 57 kilos, runner up in the.
That doesn't really count though. I don't care. Taguchi doesn't count as a Canadian, just like Kyle Reyes doesn't count as a Canadian. They're Japanese trained, lived, born,
Right. I guess they're not part of the system. You're right.
Yeah, they didn't come through that system. Like Clinton Cake came through that system. That's impressive. Margellione came through that system. That's
63 kilo girl. What's her name? Bouchard? What's her name?
Catherine.
Yeah.
She came through that system. Antoine came through that system.
Yep.
And Bouchard, 66, came through that system. Like they still have had some really, really solid players.
And they've got people that are seventh, that are finishing seventh, that just don't make it to the medal round, but they're in the fight.
Yeah.
We're in the fight to win a match.
And they look competitive.
Yeah. Yep. What's up, coaches? How do you find the usage of performance analysis?
I'm going to show this question.
Okay.
We'll throw this one in here. Okay. This is an interesting one. So, interestingly enough, on the member podcast for American Judo, I actually did a video breakdown of CAS as our thing because all of our athletes were away at the camp. So I wanted to do something. So I thought it would be important for people to see how I would have broken down a video of a competitor in my weight class and the types of things I would look for. And stereotypes, probably not the right word, but what am I trying to say? How they subconsciously react and do things rather than planned responses. A lot of people, when they get tired, they delve back into, habits that they don't really think are habits. Patterns would be another way of looking at it, Alex. The best way I can think to explain it is 2 scenarios that happened to me specifically that people could go back and watch. One was the Tokyo Grand Slam in 2015 when I was fighting the Russian, I think in the quarters. Maybe it was the round before the quarters. And I was getting my ass kicked, royally getting my ass kicked. I was down 3 Shidos. I had gotten thrown for Wazari, and it was not going well. I was just coming off knee surgery from my infection, and the Russian just had this huge mental lapse in the last 20 seconds. He was a left-handed player, and I basically was running at him trying to get something going, and he fell on his back and tried to do sumi to eat the clock. And sure enough, he fell on his back. I passed his guard and pinned him for Ippon. But I wasn't winning that fight without his mental lapse. And, when people are training and they're not paying attention, they forget that they're supposed to be fighting out of situations like this to develop good habits. And what you see a lot of young athletes do, and a lot of athletes in general, is when they feel like they've won a round or they've thrown somebody 3 times and maybe gotten thrown once, when they see the clock at like 40 seconds, they actually start changing how they fight. And they start protecting what's happened in the last few minutes instead of continually looking to get better and improve and continue to score. And that was one of those instances where at training camps and in training, the Russian just falls into this like habit of protecting his lead and doing things subconsciously. And I remember getting off the mat and the coach being so pissed off. He actually came up to Jimmy and he was like, I told him before they went out on that fight that the only thing he can't do is fall on his back and he'll beat me. And sure enough, less than 20 seconds on the clock, he falls on his back. I remember watching the Bulgarian that I fought in the quarters of Rio. And I remember when he beat the Korean and I was like, got it in the bag. We were so thrilled because we had never fought the Korean before. We never fought in the Bulgarian guy either. But I remember watching the Bulgarian guy in Austria training. And every time somebody pressured him and they were gripping real hard, that guy would fall on his back and try to do sumi to get out of the position. And I was like, oh, guaranteed he's going to do this at least once or twice in this fight. And I'll pin him for sure. And sure enough, like, what was it, like 2.5 minutes in, he did sumi, got pinned, and game over for him. And those are those like habits that like I would look for. So when we're talking about like performance analysis, I'm not necessarily a big fan on the technical side of it. Like, I don't care that another story time with Travis now. Story time. I remember when I had Gerby come out, Yarden Gerby from Israel come out and do a Judo Fanatics video when she retired after 2016. And we were talking about performance and this topic came up. And she asked if there was anybody on our side of judo that like did performance analysis. And I said no. And Israel actually hired somebody for this specific job. And the guy walked into the dojo in Israel one day and told them that he found these interesting stats about the Japanese girl at 63 kilos. And they found that there was something in the stats. It was something like if she didn't score in like the first minute and a half of the fight, she lost like 80% of the time. Didn't mean she threw somebody for a Ippon. It meant that she had to get a score on the board. And so when they went into Rio, the fight for Yarden was easy because she knew she just had to wait until the minute and a half. And then statistically, the odds went so far in her favor, she was able to pull out the win. And it's the same thing with, the Georgian guy. I remember watching video of him. And if you watch videos of Churchishvili, even in his prime, you'll see in the final minute, if you were to watch like and clip out like 10 fights where he went the distance, like the full 5 minutes, and you clipped out the last minute of every fight, and then you independently of the other fights, they look like two completely different fighters. It's almost like he goes into like a panic. Doesn't matter how much he's been kicking the shit out of you. Doesn't matter. When that final minute happens, it's almost like his brain goes into like a level of frustration or anger or a feeling of like he's not winning. And he makes these like dramatic changes where you see like all different styles of judo come out, all these throws that like you didn't see in the first 4 minutes, but you see him in like golden score or in the last minute. And it's when people make those dramatic changes that they become easily beatable, because that player is usually a lot worse than the guy who fought in the first half. So it's those types of things that I look for when doing like video analysis and video, more so than, you know, this guy gets more Cheetos than that guy, or this guy attacks forward more than that guy. Those types of things I don't necessarily think are as relevant. I look at more like big picture, broad brushstroke type events. But maybe you're different, Steve. I don't know.
No, I think that there's a couple points that we should make. Is that as an elite athlete and someone who wins, your expectation is always to win the match. So whether there's 40 seconds left or a minute and 40 seconds, you're going after the match to win. If there's 5 seconds left, you still think you're going to get that chance to win, and you're prepared. So something's not going to happen that you're not going to take advantage of. Especially when you have a great advantage in Newaza and everyone knows it. There is a thing that kicks in, and I know it from coaching Jimmy. I had a rule with Jimmy that no one goes to the ground 3 times and gets up. I mean, maybe they get up twice, but not the third time. And I remember him fighting Mataloni, and Mataloni did drop Sanagi. And after twice he did it to Jimmy, I remember him looking at me, because he was able to get up. And I said, "You're going to get him." I just knew it. And again, the third time he went down, Jimmy turned him and pinned him like a baby. It's part of it is knowing your strengths, and the other thing is, man, you got to be you got to train hard. You got to be able to finish that last 40 seconds. When you're in a match and someone's getting tired, you need to be able to put it into a third gear.
But when you were coaching, right, like going all the way back into like the 90s and like the early 2000s, did you ever track like the actual like stats of like athletes?
So
I guess would be no.
Well, here's what I did is I went off on my own, and I gathered, and I had to do this online,
Pen and paper.
going to the French judo website and some of the IGF, but the French had the best, and I got every pool sheet for the last 4 years. I purchased videos of the Europeans and the Asian championships, and I watched the videos, and I did I did strategic plans for every athlete. And at that time, we didn't know who you were going to fight. And I think they only seeded the first 3 players. So the pools, the draws were challenging. You didn't know who you were going to get.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work, but I remember it specifically with Jimmy in 99 that he had lost to a Mongolian in the 96 Olympics. And he was concerned about him. And Jimmy would beat him 9 out of 10 times, but still he was concerned. And the guy that took the silver medal, Christophe, I can't think of his last name, from France, is a lefty also, and he beat the Mongolian. Got the video of the Frenchman beating the Mongolian. Jimmy saw it, and he goes, "There's no way I don't beat this guy." So that's the kind of thing that I had to do. And there's some funny stories to me getting that video and trying to plug it in Scotland and having the whole hotel, all the electricity go out. but yeah, you get as much information as you can, but you got to know your athletes. It's important as a coach to know your athletes, so that takes time. And trust, we've talked about trust. We've written about trust. It's something that you build constantly. So yeah, but nowadays it's easy. It's so much out there, so much judo to watch, so many statistics to find. It was hard in the 90s.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily like look at like how people grip, how they react, and like their patterns. I remember coming up through the ranks with Big Jim, and his big thing, and I guess I fall privy to like my mindset being the same as his now because we had so much success with it, is you can always find that like that one thing to like harp on with an athlete. And if you can do that one thing, the odds of you winning that fight just dramatically increase. And if you just boil it down to just something as simple as that, it gives you tremendous focus. It gives you an easy goal to obtain.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're doing that thing, whatever it is, you just have to figure out how to win once you're doing that thing. And that's where like the freedom and creativity comes in for us as far as like how we're going to do it. As long as we're able to accomplish that one thing. And that goes back to your point of like, you have to know that player, right? The one that you're trying to beat. And you have to know what your own skill set is and capabilities are so that you can build a plan that focuses down to this one piece of information that you can keep replaying in your head to really focus on. Um, you know, it could be as simple as like the guy just can't grab your neck,
Yep.
right? If he doesn't grab your neck, the chances of him throwing you go down by like 80%. Great. That means I can do anything I want as long as he doesn't get my neck, and then we're in a competitive fight.
Well,
And those are the types of things that we would game plan and we would strategize for, rather than all that information. Because sometimes too much data is a real thing. If you have too much information, I used to know athletes that knew too much and then they couldn't perform because they were so worried about all these different things and possibilities and structure that they couldn't like think and narrow in their focus.
yeah, yeah, I don't disagree, but the information that a coach has to be vast, and then he dwindles it down into what's important for the athlete, which
Correct.
means that as a coach, if you go to every training camp, usually you get to see your athlete compete with or train with the athletes that are going to be he's going to be fighting in the Olympics and the Worlds and the main tournaments. So you get a decent look at how they play and what they do. So it gives you, again, the quality of the coach is the quality of the coach, and I agree. But the information is there for you to get as a coach if you're paying attention and you're doing it professionally.
Here's my final remark on this, because this is obviously an interesting topic to just like harp on. But when you're first starting out, I think the more data you have, the better. But once you're seasoned as a coach or an athlete, all that data is really irrelevant, because you're living it, you're breathing it, you're actively participating inside this realm with all these other players, that as long as you're actively participating, you'll know. Like when I was an athlete, like I didn't need to go watch video of players. I knew the players. I saw them at training camps once a month. I saw them in the competitions. I was there. I was actively competing, watching, seeing. You know how they lose because you're there at the events. So you have all this stuff. As long as you're paying attention to it while you're doing it, then going back and looking at all the stats and the data, I've always had my gut to back me, and that's probably a terrible way to look at it. But man, and if I didn't know, I would get on a plane and go somewhere where I knew they were training just to get the information firsthand, rather than watch it on a video. I've never been a fan of video analysis unless I'm actually clueless and I actually don't know. But for the most part, like we had 80 to 90% of all the answers already.
Yeah, but as a coach, athlete goes out and fight. They're fighting at the top level. Things aren't going right. What's plan B? You know that athlete. You know what else they can do. You know to make an adjustment. I mean, it's hard to make an adjustment at the very top level. Someone like you and Jimmy, you got to have an awful lot of confidence in the guy talking to you if you're going to make an adjustment in the match when something's not working. But that's where you need to have the knowledge at the level that you're talking. But a coach has got to do their job. The coach has got to do their job. They've got to have that information. Yeah.
I'll give one last example of Big Jim, right? We were at Pedro's Judo Center on a 7 a.m. morning practice, and we're doing throws on the crash pad. I don't remember what I was doing, but Big Jim hobbles over to me, and he references a guy I potentially have to fight in a few months based on a training camp in Paris, which was like 8 months ago. And he was like, hey, when he was at that camp, he got thrown a lot with this, and he's registered for the competition here. So you should probably start developing this. But it's because he's actively participating at the camps where, like, he's not only watching us, he's watching our competitors in important matches. That's what I mean by, like, he's actively participating, and the coach should actively be participating so that those datas and those numbers just they're nice to have, but they're definitely not needed if you're doing your job correctly as a coach within the sport, and you're present while judo is happening.
Listen, I was exhausted after those camps. For me as a coach, it was intense. I was watching closely, looking for those things. And that's how it is. So you're exactly right. And again, you trusted him, right? You trusted him when he told you that. You knew he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. That's why he's there, and that's why you're there. Don't exist in a place where you don't have that trust.
Without a doubt. We can go on with this for about 3 more hours.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting conversation and a different topic because there's more than one way to skin a cat. So it really depends on, how much you can travel, how much you can be present, how much information you can retain while you're watching. A lot of our athletes, we have to train on remembering what happens in rounds.
Yep.
Because we can't be there all the time as part-time coaches when they're at these camps. So it's like, hey, like when you guys get done with the round, explain to me the play-by-play for the last 5 minutes of that fight to make sure like they're actively remembering correctly what's transpired during the fight.
I do that all the time. I agree.
So it's definitely a skill set that's learned. You're not just born with it, but it takes a lot of work to develop long term to use effectively.
Father who teaches 3 and 5-year-old judo, and
Yeah,
I'm learning everything I can. Go and read my blog. Read my blog at American Judo. I break it down from day one.
All right, let's jump into some of these videos.
What
do we got here? Oh, tall people, man, I hate them. Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh no!
Look how simple this is.
So, interestingly enough, I was doing a camp at a BJJ school in Nashville for Clay Mayfield at Triangle Academy, and this conversation came up, right? Because he was like, I don't understand how people get caught like this. And I was like, oddly enough, it's really, really hard to stop when this situation like arises. So let's just break this down just really quick. Hold on. We're gonna fast forward through this. And pause. Wait, can I back this up just a hair? This is where it all fell apart, right? And I would not condone teaching this to judo players, but oh man, you have to look at like the mechanical structure of like what's really happening right now, right? So I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but the right leg of White is across the chest, the left leg is over the back, and you can see that she's already got that hand exposed. So she's already peeling that arm she's trying to break, right? So it's starting to come out. And another person who does this really, really well, for those of you guys who want to go look for somebody, is Hashimoto, 73 kilos. He does this arm bar like you wouldn't believe. But what he does is he takes the left leg over here on the top and he throws it down over the head because it stops people from picking up their head. And it allows you to just go full body deadlift on that arm and you just get it to go straight. And then people panic roll instead of staying belly down where they're supposed to. And it's just one bad thing happens after another and eventually you tap. But I remember showing Clay this and I go, you just get so much power on that arm that like there's just not much you can do about it. And judo players are so physically strong that when we get in positions like this where we can really use our whole body against one of your limbs, it's just not going to go well for you. It's definitely a new age Japanese way of doing an arm lock. Oh, and you know what? To Jimmy's point and my point and everybody at American Judo's point is you have to offensively do things from bottom. If you lay there and just let people do things, you're bound to get caught. It's just nature of the beast. You can't just lay there and cover up. Oh, she's going to fucking do it again, isn't she?
I think so.
Oh, this one's a little different. Do you think it's a good motivator for someone who is just starting out in judo? Is the belt rank? No, I don't care about rank. This one's not that impressive to me.
No. The impressive was the three rounds in a row.
God, I remember having a conversation with Kayla on the way back on a plane from somewhere in Europe. And we were talking about why the rest of the US team doesn't do Newaza. And I was like, we should probably meaning we were never going to do it, but it would be fun to do, is actually go back and look at all of Kayla's titles and all of my titles and then take away the titles where we didn't win a fight on the ground to get there, to get it. Right? Because then you take away Rio. Both of us won fights on the ground. You take away Kayla's 2012 because she won a fight on the ground. Right? So all these athletes who aren't actively participating on the ground and trying to win, you lose some of the best judo players in the world that have existed.
Travis, 2012, she won every match on the ground.
No, I don't think so. 2016, she did.
2016.
Yeah.
Every match on the ground.
Oh, there it is. There's that left foot that comes over the top. Yep. And then that's how he finishes it too. And it's just because people don't know what they're doing, because when we're in this situation, it's so easy to stop, because right here, all White has to do is walk their feet to the head and step over. And can't get armbarred.
I mean, I don't want to make light of this. This is the Tokyo Grand Slam, quarter, semi, and final. I mean, that's this girl's just eating everyone up with the juji. That's impressive to me. I mean, getting in the match, you got to know she's going to do a juji. I mean,
well, and it's obviously part of her plan, because it's not too often you see a Japanese player do a sumi
right
from a high hand. you know. And you can tell she trains on the ground too, because she's actively blocking the far side hip.
Without a doubt.
And then right there, you can see that that foot is curled into that hip to prevent her from being pushed over. So she knows what she's doing.
Most judo clubs, beginning judo clubs, make a big mistake without concentrating on newaza. Newaza is mechanical. It could be learned. The fundamentals are so much easier to learn than tachiwaza.
Oh. Blue's about to get smoked, walking in the wrong direction. Dumb.
Japanese always have really good ashiwaza. I really like it. Just
stupid. Just such poor gripping.
Yep.
From the Italian. Like, just such poor gripping. I'm appalled.
And I believe this was a semifinal match.
It looks like it because
Yep.
They have the banner across the mat. Stupid. Just so many like fundamental things that if you just did the basics, this doesn't happen for Blue. It just doesn't happen, right? Like,
right.
Let's just fast forward to the restart here. Right, I'm still not sure if Blue's a righty or a lefty, but they're starting right, walking to the left, which is already wrong. But now she's gripping like a lefty, right? So she's got her left foot forward, but then tries to go right. And then out of nowhere, she just randomly changes back to a right-handed stance, but a left-handed grip. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, there's so many things that are just like, when you slow it down and you look at it, you're like, clearly, like, in my brain, the situation has overwhelmed her and she has just stopped processing information.
Yeah.
Because even here at the beginning, right there, she changes that stance again.
Yep.
Part of me wants to say she's a lefty, and she's just like confused for a few seconds every exchange.
You know, girls judo, they do switch a lot more than men, and I hate that. I actually, as an athlete, I loved it when somebody did me. But you'll see another video too like that, and I just think that it's a big mistake, as you see.
But you know what? It's okay to change your stance, but you can't be like, oh, I'm going to hold them like a lefty, but stand like a righty.
Well,
like that's where like I get confused. Like, I get that some players are like dynamic, right? But all right, let's see what we got here. Big boys now.
Yeah, Aaron Wolf, Olympic champion.
This guy.
His comeback into the arena.
Oh no! He got caught with the Hoosinger.
Right.
The Hoosinger. How do you get caught with the Hoosinger from the Dutch guy?
Right.
Oh. Oh man.
This was his comeback. I didn't know he was still playing.
Oh man. Oh. I feel bad for him. It's possible that the Italian lost concentration, but like those are those like what those like movements, right, that people do that they don't really realize that they do, that cost people matches. That's why you mentally have to actively engage when you're training so that you don't have to think about those things and they're not losses in concentration because your body shouldn't be doing things incorrectly. She's clearly aware she does it. She's just not punished often enough to pay the price for it.
And one of the things I'll tell you about the previous match is that if you want to develop good ashiwaza, you got to do it all the time. You got to keep doing it, and that's how you develop it. You're not born with it. You got to be hitting the foot and the feet all the time.
I still can't believe he got caught with the Huizenga drop sail. Dunk. Oh, this is a big fight.
Yep. Gold medal. Look at the energy Abe goes after her for. And Neto's a high righty. She's a strong right player. A typical French gripper. And you're going to like this.
No.
Nope.
Okay, good.
You're going to like this.
Abe's going the wrong way. Yep. Oh, that sucks. That sucked.
What a mistake.
What I don't understand is why the French girl punched the sleeve across.
No idea. No idea.
Like that.
Yep.
And she must have been losing that right hand and just wanted to free her sleeve right away.
I don't know. It looked like it was the first time she came close to getting her grip that whole match. That was the first time she got her hand up. But it certainly appeared Abe has been in that position before.
Before we continue, Steve, you want to answer this question?
Oh, what would the top be? Core fundamentals to start in both Tachi and the first thing we're going to start with is balance and agility. Mainly, balance and on one foot. Hopping. I like to use a speed ladder, but you don't need one. You could do it right on the mat. And work on acceleration and deceleration. Hopping. I actually made a video quite a while ago, it seems like. But that's where I'm starting. And again, I say this with due respect. Go on AmericanJudo.com. I write it all down. It's not a 6-page read. It's 3 paragraphs. I make it real simple. It says it step by step what to do when you're starting off day one in judo. Okay? We need to be able to balance on one foot in judo. Okay? We need to know where to place our hands when we grab a gi. We need to know how to walk. All those things are critical in beginning fundamentals. So go ahead and take the time. Again, my email is steve@americanjudo.com if you want to communicate with me. And one more thing, I'll make a plug for American Judo. Starting next month, we're going to start having kids workshops, under 10 workshops for coaches and kids. In American Judo, we're going to start working with young coaches and young kids, teaching them how to develop their kids and work on their fundamentals, which I'm crazy about in and beginning judo and building a strong foundation. So when they get up to Travis, Travis could teach them.
Here's another question.
As beginner defined, I find myself doing stupid things when I get out of breath. Do you think a better conditioned athlete makes fewer mistakes? Yes, I do. I do. You have to be in condition. There's famous story of I'll use my age, a guy named Tommy Martin, who was a top U.S. player. We were in Europe, and the great Klaus Glahn was there giving a clinic, and Tommy says, "What do you do when you get out of breath in a match?" And Klaus, in his German accent, said, "I suggest you get into shape. You must be in shape." I gotta tell you that training in judo is difficult. You need to be the first one on the mat and the last one off. You got to be in the gym. You got to train. So when you're in that match, you don't get out of shape. You don't lose your breath. You know, being conditioned makes a difference. You know, I got to tell you, there's a guy named Miguel Aurelio who was an Olympic champion from Brazil. This guy never got tired. Never got tired. We used to say he had 3 lungs. Never got tired. Hard guy to beat. And obviously in 88, no one beat him. So, yeah, you need to get in shape. And if you want to get in shape for judo, you need to do a lot of judo. That's what's going to get you into best shape for judo.
All right, let's jump into the next video here. Oh, this Maru guy's terrible. This Russian's going to lay him out.
Maru's been winning a lot.
Nah, he sucks. He's just lucky. Watch. Oh, I was wrong. That stupid stiff arm Soto. Guy's terrible. Could wreck his world. Just steal that lead hand and blast him. He's even posted on the collar for me.
Yeah, it's a nice Osoto.
You know what? That's the one thing some Russians have, that issue of like being way too lackadaisical. Yep. Just way too lackadaisical. I mean, he's not doing much of anything.
Yep.
He even got his bell rung. Hopefully he remembers this one. I'll watch it again.
Something tells me he will. And it's a cross grip Osoto. He came across to the other side.
I can't believe that. Oh, Deguchi.
Watch her intensity in this match.
She's going to the Olympics too.
Is she? Mm-hmm. It's been decided?
It was decided once they released the rules, I think.
Huh. Well, she went after this match. She went really hard after this. Not that she doesn't always go hard, but it just seemed to me like she was going extra hard.
Yeah, they set some type of like criteria that was like a best of 3. Whoever had the best of these 3 pieces of criteria would get to go. And I think Deguchi's already solidified 2 of them.
Interesting.
I think the first one was the World Championships. Whoever did better, and she won it. So that gave her 1.
And this must have been the other, because Lima beat Klimkate in the semis. Whoa! There. So it's interesting because the other Brazilian in this competition is Silva, and she's a former gold medalist too. So 2 Brazilians and 2 Canadians in this division. 3 world champions. I like the Gucci's judo.
And reaching with the wrong hand. Stupid people. Oh, Abe for the last one. Here we go.
This is classic.
He's so fast. Wish I could bend like that. Oh, that hurt the pride.
You know,
that hurt his pride so much.
It's funny. Now, he does that great, but when I watch this in slow motion, the blue, he's almost falling backwards to stop his forward throw, and he just goes down hard. Oh, God.
Man, he's just in so much, physically, he's just in so much better shape. Not just conditioning wise, but physically, his strength and power, which is odd because he's Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh,
God. And again, the feel of knowing, just the way he sets that up. Even if you know it's coming, you gotta respect his forward attack. You can't not do that. Yeah, he is really physically strong, and
here you go, Steve. This one's for you.
Shout out from Scotland, 45 years old, who started judo ago, but having issues with my footwork. My brain isn't reacting quick enough yet. Any advice? Yeah. First of all, for your footwork, if you're talking about ashiwaza, ashibarai, diashibarai, you want to practice sweeping, just going up and down the mat every time you're on the mat. And then you can do a partner sweep where you move across the mat with a partner. And then when you're doing randori, use your feet all the time. The first several months, if not years, you're going to be hitting a brick wall when you hit that foot. The timing takes time to learn. Judo takes time to learn. Don't be impatient. Relax. Relax and keep trying. One time you're going to do a foot sweep and your opponent's going to go down and you're going to say, what did I do different? Eventually, you're going to start getting a feel for it. Judo is so much about feel. It's so much about feel. And every once in a while, you get a prodigy that walks in that has it. But 99% of the other time, it takes time to learn it. So don't get impatient. Just keep trying. Keep trying. And I promise you, the first time it works, you're going to say to yourself, what did I do different? And you're not going to know. So just be patient and take your time.
Even once you figure it out, half the time you're going to be shocked it worked.
Yes. Yes. But for you guys out there, ashiwaza, do ashiwaza. Yes. Go ahead.
It's been an hour. We're going to end it here. Thank you guys for taking time out of your Saturday to hang out with us. Until next time in January. See you guys then.
Happy New Year to y'all.